Well, greetings. My name is Jim Wickens, and I am the founder of NFLDraftFanatics.com. So, what I would like to do is discuss some of the 2024 enhancements to the NFL Draft Fanatics simulator, as well as show some of the things that were already there in 2023. But, it's a different kind of simulator. Each team has its own draft card, and I want to kind of dive right into it and talk about kind of how we're going to do things today. So right here, this is the PFF player board. The specific player board that's used isn't important with this simulator, and that is because the user behavior dictates where the players are ranked more than is it PFF's big board, Draft Tech's big board, Jim's big board, or any other person's big board. So the main premise behind NFLDraftFanatics.com is every team has its own player board, and that player board gets modified based upon mock drafts. And the best way to explain that is just to start doing a mock draft and show you. So over here, we're going to start a mock draft. Single player. A couple things. I am on the test site for NFLDraftFanatics.com. There is some functionality that is on this site that hasn't been rolled out to NFLDraftFanatics.com. So I'm going to be demonstrating off of the test site. This functionality should be available on the production site sometime in November or December, just based on when the developers get other tasks completed. So we're going to start with Chicago, and for the next hour, we're going to go through as many as we can. I don't know how many teams I will get through, and I'm going to use this player board kind of as my guide, and then I'm going to be checking some things off. So this is the same player board. I just made a Google Sheet out of it so that I could start checking things off. So one thing I want to do is talk about also on NFLDraftFanatics.com. If we look, Chicago has the first pick. And if we look here, Chicago has a player list. So I'm going to click that. And this is the order of the players on Chicago's player board. Okay. So I can even kind of sneak that over here. And we can leave this up next to this, okay? But let's go to Chicago, and I am going to do a first-round challenge. This is a great way to begin setting up a draft board, draft card for a team. And what a first-round challenge is we're going to do 5 first rounds for Chicago. Now, I believe they have 2 first-round picks, so that's going to be a total of 10 players that we pick. And then the 4th time through, we're going to pick a player that's at the bottom of the draft board. Okay. So, and when I say the bottom is, these could be second round picks that could come into the first round. So for the 4th pick that we go through in the challenge, I'm going to grab a player that probably has a second round grade. Okay. So we're going to do Chicago, first round challenge, enter draft. Okay, so Chicago, I'm going to say they need a quarterback, so I am going to go Caleb Williams. Okay, now they also have pick 5. You can see round 1, iteration 1 here. Okay, so they also have pick 5, and I am going to say Chicago also needs a defensive tackle, so I am going to go Michael Hall here. Okay, so it's going to go through the rest of the first round, and now we're at round 1, iteration 1. Okay, so who else would Chicago pick? So Chicago, to me, needs a quarterback, okay? And if we look here, like we don't see Drake May high up. So let's do a quick search here. So there's Drake May. Notice he is ranked 64. So I'm going to pick him with Chicago's 2nd pick. Okay. So notice a couple things. So when we did the first round challenge, Michael Hall was picked last time. The way a first round challenge generally works is that if you've picked a player in round one, in one of the other iterations, it won't let you pick the player in another iteration. So Michael Hall is off the board. Okay, so who else? So let's, again, looking at this, let's look for Latu, see if he's there. Okay, not on this board yet. Okay, let's go down Alt. Let's see if he's there. So let's say they need a tackle. Okay, so notice Alt is player 224. So I'm going to draft him. Okay, now we're at the third iteration. So let's take a look here. And we have Drake May. What other quarterbacks are there? So let's look for Bo Nix. Okay, so let's go quarterback. And you see Bo Nix, he's 42. So we're going to draft. And then I am going to say Chicago also likely needs a wide receiver. Marvin Harrison, if he falls to pick 5, that's a no-brainer for Chicago, right? Okay, so now we're at iteration 4. So this is where I said, let's look further down the PFF draft board and say, okay, J.J. McCarthy would be a reasonable pick. And notice he's already pretty high on Chicago's board. So PFF has him as the 29th player. On this board, he's the 5th. So I want to find a different player for the purposes of demonstration. Sanders. So I heard today Sanders is likely returning to college, but right now he's on the board. So I'm going to grab Sanders, likely a second-round grade, but I am going to grab him. He's pick 111 here. And then they also need a wide receiver. Let's look for Wilson. So we can search here. And Wilson's 221. So we've grabbed 2 players that would be much further down on the draft board. And then let's finish it up strong. So they would likely need, okay, let's look for Neighbors, see if Neighbors is there. Yep. So he is 17th right now. Let's draft him. Oh. Okay. So if we look at the Chicago draft board, you can see that Bo Nix, Drake May, Shedeur Sanders have all moved up on the board significantly. And you can see Wilson and Alt are also there, and as well as McCarthy. Those were 9 players I picked. They have moved close to the top of the board. Okay. Let's do the same thing for the Cardinals. Okay, so now we're going to do the Cardinals first round challenge. Okay, so the Cardinals need a quarterback. So let me do one other thing here. So let's go to team needs. And let's look at the player list for the Cardinals. Okay, so this is what the Cardinals player list looks like. You can see Caleb Williams is the top player on their board, but he is not available in this iteration because he was taken to Chicago. Okay, so I am going to say Drake May. So let's go find May. Okay, and they have a second pick, and I believe they would likely draft a tackle. So let's look for, oh, and I bet Joe Alt was already taken. Yep, so therefore he is not available. Okay, so let's look for this tackle here. Nope, not there. Okay. Let's look for Robinson out of Penn State. Okay, so here he is right here. So we grab Robinson. Okay, so now notice because Drake May was picked by the Cardinals at pick 2. The simulator forces that person to go before the Cardinals pick. So therefore, Caleb Williams is available. So that's how that happened. Okay. And Michael Hall, actually, okay, and they've already picked a quarterback here. So let's look for Jared Verse. Did Verse already go in this simulation? So Verse should be available. Okay, so now we're at iteration 3. So if Marvin Harrison is there, would he go to the Cardinals? I think that's a good decision. Notice it won't put Drake May there, even though he hasn't been picked. He is removed from this first-round challenge because we want unique picks for every first-round cycle. Okay, so in this case, the Cardinals selected Marvin Harrison, and then I don't see Bo Nix hasn't been taken. So let's look for Nix. He's player 215, so we're going to draft him. Okay, so remember I said for the 4th iteration, we want to look further down. So, for example, let's say we want Trice. Okay, so we're going to draft Trice for the Cardinals, and then let's look for another one. Let's look for Mims. Okay, not on this board. Did we take a quarterback? We did not. So let's look at the quarterbacks. And let's go with McCarthy. Is McCarthy available right here? So he's currently 45th on the board. Okay. And now the last iteration, again, notice we just selected that player. It made sure that he was gone by the time the Cardinals picked. Okay. So again, using the PFF player board, let's verify. So Drake May is not available. He's already been picked in a simulation. I don't think they would pick tight end. Let's look for Neighbors. Okay, so we'll take Neighbors. And then let's look for that wide receiver. Okay, so it finishes there. And now let me refresh this. Okay, so this is the Cardinals' new board. And just observe that there were players that moved up. And where that's going to become important is that if a 2-round mock draft is done, there's probably going to be some players that are ranked 7 through 10 that would fall to the Cardinals in round 2. Okay, so let's go enter the draft, first round challenge, and now we're going to do the Giants. Okay. So while it's loading that, we'll look at the Giants player board. So this is what the Giants player board looks like. Okay. And again, Marvin Harrison is the top player on their board. He was gone at number 1. Caleb Williams is number 3. How would Caleb Williams get to 1? Well, he would have to be skipped enough at the first and the second pick for the Giants to pick him. So some of how these top players are going to be ranked is going to be based upon the frequency at which the team can pick them. Marvin Harrison can be picked more often than Caleb Williams for the Giants, simply based on player availability. That's why Harrison is higher. Okay, so Drake May would be a great pick for the Giants. So I'm going to go there. Okay, so in this case, Giants only have one pick. So notice we picked Drake May. So he went before the Giants pick. That's the way that the first round challenge is set up. So therefore, Caleb Williams is available. So let's go grab him. Okay, so let's try this one more time. Okay, so we're going to go Drake May. We're going to go Caleb Williams. Okay. Third time's the charm. We'll go Drake May. We'll go McCarthy. Okay. And that's why this is a test environment. There's clearly a problem there. Okay, so let's go to the Patriots. And we're going to do first round challenge, and we're going to do New England. Okay. So New England definitely needs a quarterback. So I'm going to look for May. Okay. Second iteration. Knicks. Okay. So now we're going to try it a different way. So notice I noticed a problem with those two. We're going to go Green Bay. And this time we're going to do something different. Okay, this is new to 2024. So Fanatic mode, I am going to do 5 3-round drafts for the Packers. Okay. What Fanatic mode is unique to NFLDraftFanatics.com. And the way that it is set up is we're going to do a 3-round mock draft. So let's just do one simple 3-round mock. So I like tackle to the Packers. That seems to make a lot of sense to me. He's 7th on the PFF board. That looks like a good pick, right? Okay, so now it's going to take us into round 2. So if we look at the PFF board, the wide receiver that PFF has this as the 25th best player, and he's available at pick 37. No brainer. Going to pick that one. Best player available, right? Okay, so now Green Bay has another second-round pick. So at this point, we have done offensive tackle, wide receiver. And then what would they do? So let's look for, is DeJean there? Yep. So he's there. And if you look on the PFF board, he is the 26th best player. He is still available at pick 50. That's a good pick. Okay. So at this point, they've gone offensive tackle, wide receiver, cornerback. So let's look. Let's look to see if Jenkins is still there. Nope. Let's see if Sanders is still there. Nope. Let's see if Ellis is still there. Okay, so let's look for edge. So Foreman from USC. So can I filter this? Okay. Not finding what I'm looking for. So let's add defensive lineman. Where are we? We're at like pick 71. So I got to go further down this list. Actually, let's look to see if Riley Leonard is still there. Nope. Let's see if Bowman is. Okay. So Bowman, who is pick 64, player 64 on PFF, he's ranked 167th right now. So we'll grab him for the Packers. Okay. So that was the first iteration. We went through 3 rounds. And what I guarantee is whoever Green Bay picks, what Fanatic Mode does is if you look who Green Bay picked, so in this case, I believe the first pick was Joe Alt, right? So Green Bay picked Joe Alt. So in the second iteration of Fanatic Mode, what it's going to do, and you can see right here, I picked Joe Alt, right? Joe Alt went before Green Bay picked. Fanatic Mode will override the draft card for the teams that pick before you to make sure you can't draft them again. Okay, so if you look here, somebody has moved a kicker really high up on the Packers board. So if the tackle isn't there for Green Bay, who else would they be looking at? So let's look at the offensive tackles. So Fashanu is there. Let's grab him. Okay. So they have 2 second-round picks. So if you look at who Green Bay picked before, Igbuka was picked, and then boom, he's gone before Green Bay picks. So they can't pick the same player. Okay. So at this point, they have grabbed a tackle. So another wide receiver. Let's see if Coleman is there. So Coleman is sitting best wide receiver available. So let's go grab Coleman for the Packers in round 2. They have a second round 2 pick. You can see DeJean was picked before. Okay, so couldn't find the 2 cornerbacks I was looking for. Okay, so let's see if Turner's not there. Taylor's not there. Okay, so let's say Penix in round 2. That would be a good Packers pick. Round 3. So thus far, the Packers have gone here. And let's look at safety. And let's grab Cole Bishop. Okay. So at this point, now we've gone through 2 3-round drafts for the Packers. Now we're going through the 3rd iteration. And I said that I believe I picked the 6th choice at the beginning, which means we're going to be doing this 4 more times. Okay, so again, focusing on the PFF board, who from the PFF board is still available? And I think I already looked for this player, not on the Draft Fanatics board yet. Okay, so let's look for neighbors. Okay, so we'll go neighbors, wide receiver. Okay, second round. Let's go with Wiggins. Turner's not there. Look for Barton. And then in the third round, so at this point, who has Green Bay picked? So they've gone wide receiver, corner, offensive line. Let's go with Zion Nelson. Okay. And now we're back up to the top of the card. So it makes sure that the players that I have picked for the Packers are not available. So in this case, it makes sure that Neighbors, who I picked first before, isn't available. Okay. So O'Dunn's is 12th on PFF. That would be a good pick for the Packers. Looking for other offensive linemen that might be here. So let's make sure Alt is off the board. He is. Okay. So Latham is available. Good second round pick for the Packers. And again, I'm looking at PFF's board here. So let's see. Has Bo Nix been taken? Yes, he has. Has Penix been taken? Yes, he has. Has Trice been taken? Yes, he has. So look, his Kitchen's been taken. Egbuka. Yep. Has McCarthy been taken? Yes, he has. Has King been taken? Okay, so that was, we got through round 2 there. You can see the current picks right up here. And we will do the QB in round 3 for the Packers. So let's go McCarthy in round 1. Let's look for tackle. Let's look for edge. Let's look for interior defensive lineman. and wide receiver. Okay, so let's do this edge, then this corner, and then let's go tight end. And what I want to show you at the end of doing that fanatic mode, it was, in this case, I believe it was 4. I think I had it set to 4. I'll have to go back and watch the video to make sure that the setting I had was the number of iterations that I went through. But what it did is it made sure each of those iterations was unique. So for 3 rounds, I just kept doing a unique 3-round draft. And then if we look at the Packers board, so if we come here and we look at the Packers player board, this should be reflective of the players that you see here. So you can see we took this player high, and you see that player high here. You can see that we took McCarthy high, and McCarthy is 9th. I believe we took Neighbors here, and you can see where Neighbors is here. So the players are going to move up or down. And if you remember, there was a kicker that was really high on their board. And based upon what we've done is we took a kicker out who I believe was like 4th or 6th, and we've already pushed him down to 16th on their draft card. Okay. So with NFLDraftFanatics.com, the player boards are going to move. So what I want to do now is if we just do a normal mock draft, okay, so I'm going to enter a draft, and I'm going to do a 3-round draft, and I'm a Bills fan, so we're going to do a Bills draft. I'm skipping this, and this is just a 3-round Buffalo Bills draft, okay? So let's pay attention to who gets picked. So I'm going to just start the draft, not doing any trades. And it's proposing a trade. I'm going to reject. Okay, so let's take a look at who got picked. So we've seen Caleb Williams go to the Bears. We've seen Marvin Harrison go to the Cardinals. We have seen Drake May go to the Giants based upon setting up the draft cards during this. We have seen Joe Alt go to the Packers. Okay, so Buffalo generally needs defensive tackles. So let's look here, and defensive tackle, is Newton available? Okay, so according to PFF, that would be a good pick for Buffalo. Okay, Buffalo also needs a linebacker. Okay, so we also need a wide receiver. So let's take a look at what wide receivers are there. Okay, so Neighbors, not there. At this point, we're at 55. Is Egbuka available? Don't see him on the first page. Is Mitchell or Leggett there? Mitchell is. So we're going to draft Mitchell. And then Buffalo's gone linebacker in the 3rd round. So Zion Nelson is still sitting there in the 3rd round. I'm going to say he's going to Buffalo. Oh, and that's right. Buffalo has a 2nd, 3rd round pick. I will go Chop Robinson from Penn State. That would be a good pick for Buffalo. So if you look here, part of what I wanted to show is that when we get to this point and we look at, let's say, who went in round 2, okay, I moved McCarthy up the Cardinals board by picking him in one of the first round challenges. So even though probably not for where the Cardinals pick, McCarthy would be a really, people would say they would reach according to the PFF board, but he was still sitting there at the beginning of round 2. So we had him high enough on the Cardinals board that he wouldn't fall past the Cardinals in round 2. Okay. Same issue with Joe Milton to the Patriots. So I ended up picking Joe Milton during one of the first round challenges. He's not really going to be a first round pick, right? He'll go in the second round. So he was high enough on the Patriots board that he wouldn't fall past them in round 2. Egbuka, same thing here. He was one of the players that we picked for the Packers. Nobody picked him in round 1. He ended up falling to the Packers in round 2. So that's how you set up a draft card. Okay. And that was kind of the point of the podcast, is to show how that functionality worked. I appreciate anybody that watches. If you have comments, please leave them in the comments. Feel free to tweet me at NFL Draft Fanatics. And I welcome feedback on the simulator. And if you do something and you like it, let me know. If you do something and you don't like it, let me know that too. There is a lot more new functionality coming. And I look forward to hearing your feedback, positive and negative, on all of that functionality. Thank you so much.